I, 41F, have been with my boyfriend Rob, 40M, for over 2 years now. We met through mutual friends at a charity event and hit it off immediately. Rob runs a successful family business with his parents and his younger sister Sylvia, 35F. The business was started by his grandfather in the 1960s, and they've built it into one of the most respected custom furniture manufacturing companies in our area. Rob handles most of the operational decisions, including hiring, while his father oversees the financial aspects and his sister manages their social media and marketing. I'm an accountant and sometimes help out with their books, which is how I've gotten to know the inner workings of their business pretty well. Rob and I have been talking about marriage lately, and his family has been very welcoming to me and my 2 kids, 14M and 12F, from my previous marriage. My ex-husband isn't really in the picture anymore as he moved across the country with his new wife 5 years ago. Everything was going great until about a month ago when they needed to hire a new front desk manager. Rob usually handles all the hiring, but his father James, 65M, likes to get involved sometimes, especially when it comes to customer-facing positions. That's where our current problems started. During the hiring process, there was this candidate Elena, 32F, who showed some red flags right from the beginning. During the initial text screening, which is standard for their company, she kept messaging Rob constantly even after he told her he'd get back to her in a few days. She would send multiple messages throughout the day asking about the position, sharing personal information that wasn't relevant to the job, and even commenting on Rob's profile picture saying he looked very professional and handsome. It got so annoying that Rob actually blocked her number and removed her from consideration. However, Elena showed up at the office unannounced one day when Rob was out at a client meeting. She managed to charm James completely. She brought homemade Colombian food for the office, shared stories about her family's furniture business back in Colombia, and impressed everyone with her knowledge about custom furniture. James was so taken with her that he practically demanded Rob hire her, saying she would be perfect for dealing with their high-end clients. Rob tried to explain his concerns about her previous behavior, but James wouldn't hear it. He kept saying Rob was being too judgmental and that Elena's persistence showed how much she wanted the job. Sylvia backed their father up, saying they needed someone with Elena's energy and international experience. Rob finally gave in to keep the peace, and Elena started working 3 weeks ago. Since then, things have only gotten worse. Elena constantly texts Rob outside of work hours about personal things. Last week, she sent him this incredibly detailed message about her daily routine, describing everything from her 5 a.m. workout to her evening skincare routine and when she takes her sleep medication. What struck me as odd was that she never once mentioned her husband in these messages, even though she's supposedly married. The situation reached a breaking point last week when she texted Rob at 3:46 a.m. saying have a magical day mi principe because he had taken the day off to go hunting with friends. I saw the message when I woke up next to him and was absolutely livid. Who texts their married boss at that hour calling them prince? Rob tried to dismiss it, saying she's just being friendly and that's how some Hispanic people communicate, but I've had Hispanic friends and co-workers before and none of them acted like this with married men. Yesterday, she texted Rob again, starting the message with Principe, asking for help with some client files. Then, 2 hours after work ended, she sent another message saying she had given her phone number to Mike, another employee in the workshop, and now she's suddenly getting scary calls from unknown numbers who know her full name. She was acting all frightened and helpless, clearly trying to get Rob's attention and protection. I'm almost certain she made up the whole thing about the calls to make Rob jealous about giving her number to Mike. The most infuriating part came today when she approached me at the office during lunch break. I was helping Sylvia with some quarterly reports when Elena came over, all smiles and friendly, and invited Rob and me to dinner at her house. She mentioned her husband would be there too, but I later overheard her telling another employee that her husband travels for work and is only home on weekends. I'm convinced she's trying to show Rob where she lives while appearing innocent by including me in the invitation. I've tried talking to Rob about setting clear boundaries with Elena multiple times. We have a serious relationship, we're talking about marriage, and my kids absolutely adore him. They've already lost one father figure, and I don't want them to get hurt again. Elena knows all this. She's seen the family photos on Rob's desk and has even met my kids when they came to the office after school, but she still acts completely inappropriate. Rob keeps dismissing my concerns, saying I'm overreacting and that she's just being friendly because of cultural differences. He refuses to address the situation with her or consider letting her go. He says it would look bad to fire someone his father specifically wanted to hire, and that Elena hasn't actually done anything wrong professionally. James and his wife Martha love Elena because she's extremely charming and good at her job. She's increased their client satisfaction ratings and has even brought in several new high-end customers. Sylvia thinks Elena is harmless and that I'm being paranoid. She keeps telling me that Elena is just an enthusiastic person who wants to fit in with the family business atmosphere. But I've seen enough workplace affairs start exactly like this, with seemingly innocent texts and friendly dinner invitations. My own ex-husband's affair with his secretary started very similarly, which is perhaps why I'm more sensitive to these warning signs. I'm at my wit's end here. I feel like if Rob won't put proper boundaries in place with Elena, I need to do something about it myself. I'm considering going to James and Martha with proof of all the inappropriate texts, but I know that could cause problems in the family. Rob says I'm being controlling and that I need to trust him more, but my gut tells me something isn't right. Elena's constant use of Spanish with Rob is another issue. She speaks perfect English but often switches to Spanish with him, which he encourages because he's trying to improve his Spanish for their international clients. But I think she's using the language barrier as an excuse to be overly familiar with him and say things that would be clearly inappropriate in English. Am I overreacting here? Should I just trust Rob and let it go? Or should I take action myself since he won't? I really need some outside perspective on this situation because I feel like I'm going crazy with everyone dismissing my concerns. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. The overwhelming support helped me realize I wasn't being paranoid and that Elena's behavior was definitely crossing professional boundaries. Many of you suggested I take a more active approach to the situation, and that's exactly what I did, though things didn't turn out quite as I expected. Things have gotten significantly more complicated since my last post. After reading the comments suggesting I gather more evidence, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Rob had declined Elena's dinner invitation for both of us, saying we had previous plans. However, I chose to show up at her house anyway, without telling Rob. I know this might sound crazy, but I needed to see what was really going on. I remembered the address from some HR paperwork I had helped process. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I was desperate. I waited until the evening she had suggested for dinner and drove over around 7 p.m. I told Rob I was going to my sister's house, which I feel terrible about, but I felt I had no choice since no one was taking my concerns seriously. When I arrived at Elena's house, there were only 2 lights on and a single car in the driveway. I almost lost my nerve, but then I remembered all the inappropriate texts and how everyone had been dismissing my concerns. I walked up to her door and rang the doorbell. Elena opened the door wearing a nice dress, and her face showed genuine surprise when she saw me. She tried to hide it quickly, but I caught her expression change from disappointment to forced cheerfulness. The house smelled of food cooking, but it was clearly only set for one person. She invited me in, acting all flustered and saying she hadn't expected anyone since we had declined the invitation. When I asked about her husband, she gave some excuse about him being called away for work at the last minute. But the house showed no signs of a man living there, no men's shoes by the door, no male toiletries in the visible bathroom, nothing. She tried to offer me some wine and act like this was a casual friendly visit, but I wasn't having it. The most disturbing part came when I noticed her phone on the coffee table. She had left it unlocked, and I could see her photo gallery open. What caught my eye were multiple photos of Rob, not just recent work photos, but screenshots of his social media posts going back several years, well before she started working at the company. There were photos of him at family events, vacation pictures, even some old photos from his college days that he had posted as throwbacks. When I confronted her about the photos, she got extremely defensive. She claimed she was just trying to understand the company culture better by learning about the family business through their social media presence. But who saves screenshots of their boss's old college photos for company culture? She then quickly grabbed her phone and started deleting things before I could get a better look. I left shortly after that and immediately called Rob to tell him what I had discovered. His reaction shocked me even more than Elena's behavior. Instead of being concerned about his employee's inappropriate obsession with him, he got angry at me. He accused me of stalking his employee and creating drama where there was none. We had a massive fight where he called me obsessive and controlling, saying I had crossed a line by going to her house uninvited. The next day at work, things got even worse. Elena had filed a formal complaint against me with James and Martha, claiming I had harassed her at her home. She twisted everything that happened, making it sound like I had aggressively barged into her house and threatened her. She even claimed I had made racist comments about her Colombian heritage, which is absolutely false. James and Martha called me in for a meeting that afternoon. They were both very disappointed in my behavior, saying it reflected poorly on the family business. They told me I needed to formally apologize to Elena or they would have to ban me from coming to the office. They didn't even want to hear my side of the story. When I tried to show them the inappropriate texts Elena had been sending Rob, I discovered Rob had deleted them all from his phone. He claimed he regularly deletes old text conversations to save space, but I know that's not true because he still has our text history going back to when we first started dating. I'm certain Elena asked him to delete the evidence. Sylvia's reaction hurt the most. She and I had become close friends over the past 2 years, often going shopping together and having wine nights where we would talk about everything. But she completely sided with Elena. She told everyone in the office that I was just acting out because I felt threatened by a younger, prettier woman. She even suggested that my past experience with my ex-husband's infidelity had made me unstable when it came to other women. The final blow came when Rob announced he was moving out temporarily to give us space to think. He claimed he needed time to reevaluate our relationship because my paranoid behavior made him question our future together. However, I found out through a mutual friend that he's staying at the Summit Hotel, just 2 blocks from Elena's house. When I confronted him about this, he said it was just a coincidence because it's the closest hotel to the office. But there are 3 other hotels even closer to work that he could have chosen. My kids are confused and hurt by Rob's sudden departure. My son asked me yesterday if Rob was leaving us like his dad did, and I didn't know what to tell him. I feel like I'm watching my relationship fall apart because I tried to protect it, and everyone thinks I'm the crazy one. I don't know what to do anymore. Part of me wants to hire a private investigator to get proof of what I know is happening, but another part of me wonders if I should just walk away before things get even messier. I can't help feeling like I'm losing everything: my relationship, my friendship with Sylvia, my connection to a family I thought would become my own, all because I trusted my instincts about Elena. Am I really the one creating all this drama? Should I just apologize to Elena to keep the peace? Or should I stand my ground even if it means losing everything? Update 2: Everything I suspected about Elena turned out to be true, but in ways far worse than I imagined. The last month has been a complete nightmare, but at least now I have proof that I wasn't crazy or paranoid. Last week, Mike from the workshop asked to meet me for coffee outside of work. He seemed nervous and said he had been wanting to tell me something for a while but was afraid of losing his job. Mike has worked for the family for over 10 years, and what he revealed changed everything. He showed me a series of messages from Elena where she had been bragging about her plans to break up my relationship with Rob. Apparently, she had been telling people at work that Rob was unhappy with me, that we fought constantly, and that he had confided in her about wanting to leave me. None of this was true, but she had been spreading these rumors since her second week at work. Mike also revealed something that made my blood boil: Elena's husband wasn't actually away on business trips. They had been separated for almost 8 months before she even started working at the company. She had lied about still being married during the hiring process because she thought it would make her appear more stable. She had even worn a fake wedding ring to the interview. The most shocking revelation came when Mike showed me security camera footage from the office. He had access to it because he's responsible for the workshop's security system. The cameras caught Elena staying late almost every night Rob worked late, which had been happening more frequently over the past few weeks. The footage showed them getting very close in his office, and in one clip, they were definitely more than just friendly. I took the footage directly to Rob's office and confronted him. At first, he tried to deny everything, but when I showed him I had proof, he finally cracked. He admitted that he and Elena had kissed several times but claimed it didn't mean anything and that he had immediately regretted it. He then tried to turn it around on me, saying my paranoid behavior had pushed him away and into Elena's arms. Fuming, I went straight to James and Martha with all the evidence: the messages Mike showed me, the security footage, and proof of Elena's lies about her marital status on her job application. This time, with Mike backing me up and actual evidence in hand, they couldn't ignore it. James was especially upset about the lies on her application, as he had been the one to push for her hiring. They called an emergency family meeting that evening. Rob tried to minimize everything, saying it was just a few harmless flirtations that got out of hand. But then Mike played more security footage that showed Rob and Elena in very compromising positions in the workshop after hours. Rob's face went white when he realized just how much evidence there was. Sylvia was there too, and she finally apologized to me. She admitted that Elena had been manipulating everyone, playing the victim while systematically trying to drive a wedge between Rob and me. She had been so convincing in her act that everyone fell for it, including Sylvia, who now felt terrible for not believing me. The worst part was discovering that Elena had done this before. Mike had done some digging and found out she had been fired from her last 2 jobs for similar behavior, getting involved with married bosses and causing drama in the workplace. She had used different names, which was why these incidents hadn't shown up in her background check. James and Martha were mortified. They had prided themselves on running a respectable family business, and now they had this scandal to deal with. They immediately suspended both Rob and Elena pending a full investigation of the situation. As for my relationship with Rob, I don't even know what to call it anymore. He's still staying at that hotel near Elena's house, and now I know why he chose that specific location. When I went to collect some of my things from his place, I found receipts for expensive dinners and jewelry that I know weren't for me. The family business is in chaos now. Several employees have come forward with their own stories about Elena's manipulative behavior, and clients are starting to ask questions about why both the manager and the front desk person are suddenly on leave. I feel vindicated but also devastated. I trusted my instincts about Elena, but I never wanted to be right about this. My kids are heartbroken, especially my son who had really bonded with Rob. I'm trying to figure out how to help them through another father figure abandoning them while dealing with my own pain and anger. I have one more meeting scheduled with James and Martha tomorrow to discuss the whole situation. I'll update again when I know what they decide to do about Rob and Elena. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I'm finally ready to share what happened after that family meeting. A lot has changed, and while things didn't work out the way I had hoped, I'm finally at peace with how everything turned out. The meeting with James and Martha was intense. They fired Elena immediately after discovering even more lies in her employment history. It turned out she had used 3 different names in the past 5 years and had left a trail of workplace disasters behind her. 2 companies had even filed restraining orders against her after she harassed former bosses and their families. But the real bombshell came from Rob during that meeting. Instead of showing any remorse, he actually defended Elena. He confessed that they had been seeing each other secretly for weeks, not just sharing a few kisses like he had claimed earlier. He tried to blame our relationship problems, saying he felt unappreciated at home and that Elena understood him better. When I brought up my kids and how this would affect them, he just shrugged and said they weren't his responsibility. I ended things with Rob right there in that office. I couldn't believe this was the same man who had talked about adopting my children just a few months ago. James and Martha were devastated by their son's behavior. They apologized to me repeatedly and offered to help me find a new job since continuing to work with their company would be too uncomfortable. Sylvia has been trying to rebuild our friendship. She sent me a long email apologizing for not believing me and explaining how Elena had manipulated her by playing on her insecurities about her own marriage. While I appreciate her honesty, too much has happened for us to go back to how we were before. Through mutual friends, I heard that Rob and Elena moved in together. They tried to start their own furniture business, attempting to poach clients from Rob's family company. It failed miserably because James and Martha had already contacted all their major clients to explain the situation professionally and distance their business from Rob's actions. The most satisfying part was learning that Elena showed her true colors to Rob once things got tough. When their business venture failed, she started blaming him for everything and demanding more money for her sacrifices. Last I heard, she's already moved on to another target at her new job, and Rob is trying desperately to reconcile with his parents, who want nothing to do with him. My kids are doing better now. My son was angry at first, but with help from my sister and some good friends, he's understanding that Rob's choices reflect on Rob, not on him. My daughter has become more protective of me, which is sweet but also breaks my heart a little. I got a great job offer from one of James and Martha's business friends, with better pay and opportunities for advancement. They may have lost a son, but they told me they gained a daughter in me, and we still meet for dinner once a month. Sometimes I get angry thinking about how everyone dismissed my concerns initially. If they had just listened to me, maybe things wouldn't have gotten so messy. But then I remember that this experience showed me who really cares about me and my children. I won't be updating again. This chapter of my life is closed, and I'm focused on moving forward. Elena and Rob's actions reveal their true characters, and while the truth hurt, it was better than living with lies. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this mess. Trust your instincts, even when everyone else thinks you're crazy, they're usually right.